Hello, Sherry Cizek here. I'm going to share with you a semi-virtual unit plan. I mentioned in a previous video that it's my goal to help teachers that are new to teaching crafts or teachers that are new to teaching art to have a foothold here because three-dimensional art is going to be a little challenging in our current state. I'll make some comments here at the beginning that are just for teachers, and then I'm going to do some demonstrations that you are free to use with your students or free to redo in your own way. I generally begin my sculpture lessons with just a simple little exercise. I use like the cheapest of cheap oil clay. If I buy a box of this, I'll just, I can get it. Sometimes I've gotten it at the dollar store for $1 for a whole box of this, and cut it into however many kids I have. I can get, 20, 24 pieces out of this because they really only need a piece the size of a walnut. As I'm doing a little introduction stuff, not the whole thing because I would like them to pay attention too, I will give them a lump of this oil clay about the size of a walnut and tell them to make it into a face. And give them time to do it, but I don't give them time to talk about it, and I don't give them time to ask questions. So while they're doing that, I may talk about lunch schedules or something like that, just something brief. They don't need a whole lot of time. And then I have them hold it up and show me what you made. In general, I will get quite a few face cookies where they'll take the little piece of clay and they'll flatten it out and draw a face on it when I tell them to make a face. And then I'll get a few faces from people who are thinking three-dimensionally. And that's the whole point of that little exercise, that we want to see right from the get-go who's thinking two-dimensionally, who's thinking three-dimensionally, and to show those who are thinking two-dimensionally what it looks like to think three-dimensionally. That even among kids that are comfortable taking art classes, a three-dimensional art class may be a brand new way of thinking. And then generally I recollect that right away because I don't know these kids yet, and I know I don't know these kids, they don't know me, and pretty soon that's going to be tiny little spitballs of clay flying around the room. So collect it right away in a Ziploc bag. In this day and age, you're going to take that Ziploc bag and hide it in the back of your closet for a month or so until all the cooties are gone. But back to paper sculpture. Paper sculpture is a wonderful way to begin sculpture because it's lovely in and of itself. If you haven't Googled what fine art paper sculpture is looking like these days, you owe it to yourself. It will be such a visual treat for you to find out and to share with your students all the possibilities of paper as fiber art. It's a gateway to other media. The skills that you learn when you're doing paper sculpture transfer very easily to metal, to textiles, to leather, and so it does that for you. It's an economical way to introduce 3D composition and a material that people are going to have in school and have at home. So there's all kinds of good reasons for doing this. Before you begin, you want to make sure that you have the materials and the tools. I generally have a nice selection of papers, but you'll probably want to encourage your kids to be looking for papers at home. I mentioned this a little bit in my previous video, but they have, they may have regular computer paper and notebook paper. Maybe they have envelopes. Maybe they have junk mail. Often, I'm surprised at the quality of paper that's often in junk mail. And doesn't have to stay the color of junk mail. You can paint paper. But just have them start to look for paper around them that can be used, reused, repurposed in either practicing for this assignment or in the assignment itself. So there's been some wonderful discoveries as far as kids finding interesting textures of paper that I hadn't anticipated. So, and then scissors. You want to make sure that your scissors are in good condition. Scissors work because I realize I'm going all the way back to the beginning, assuming that some teachers are really new to this. So please don't be insulted if I do something way too obvious. Scissors work because two clean blades pass tightly against one another. If you've got scissors, I keep losing my camera here, with a little screw in it like that, you can take a screwdriver and tighten your scissors. That will make them more effective. If your scissors have become dull, there's easy ways to sharpen them. You can take steel wool and clean the blades, because usually when they're dull, they're not pressing together tightly, or there's a burr on or something on there. And I was really surprised to find out that if you fold tinfoil, aluminum foil, like about 8 times and cut through it, cutting through the aluminum foil sharpens the scissors. So there's an interesting little tidbit for you. I will, as I go through the student lessons, teach scissor skills. Teaching scissors is like drawing houses. Everybody tells kids to do it, but nobody teaches them how to do it. And so same thing with scissors. We've got kids like flapping the scissor blades together and being really ineffective at doing a good job cutting. And so we'll teach scissor skills, we'll teach gluing skills. I generally advise kids to use liquid glue because, you know, the old saying is glue sticks don't stick. Glue sticks are made to stick one piece of paper to another when there's no pressure or pull involved, which is not true in paper sculpture. And so I usually advocate liquid glue. I know that there are new glue sticks out there that hold tighter. If those work for you, great. I haven't had a lot of experience with those. Yeah, so liquid glue and paper, just as they get experience with that, teach them the right tool for the right job, that they should be looking at the paper weight, the paper texture, the paper absorbency, etc. When you do your demonstrations, here's my other place I've made a mistake before. When you do your demonstrations, if you're using a document camera, at first I thought I was so smart, and I took a fresh, clean piece of drawing paper and put it down underneath the document camera so that I'd have a nice clean surface to work on. And then I got a piece of, you know, just regular copy paper to do some demonstrations on, and white on white. That was bad for 2 reasons. Obviously, white on white's not going to show up. And secondly, the document camera is designed to look for a middle gray to project. And so when you put white paper underneath it, it's going to darken everything down, trying to get that middle gray. In the same way, if you put black underneath it, everything's going to be overexposed. And so I recommend that you use some kind of a mid-range value background. I'm going to use a cutting mat because I have one. And then mid-range value papers so that you don't have this problem with the document camera and exposure.